Yes, the other thing about functioning labels is that people who are termed low functioning then often get their strengths ignored and their kind of autonomy taken away. So people make decisions for them and kind of underestimate them.
Or you get that thing where people go, look at this inspirational autistic person who's done something, and you're like, yeah.
I know.
Why are you like...
inspirational for existing rather than for an achievement,
doing something that is impressive, but why are you pinning it on the fact he's autistic?
It's like autistic. Inspiration porn, I think. And there was somebody on I think America's Got Talent called Cody Lee, and all of the headlines were like, Cody Lee overcomes autism, and I was like, no, that's probably part of being autistic, is that he's able to sort of retrieve all of that information by listening to music and singers and then recreate it. So it's not about overcoming anything.
It's also in spite of being autistic, rather than this person's autistic and they're also really good at this thing, like any other normal kind of person. And the thing that I really hate as well is all of these kind of stories you get around prom time, where it's like, person takes autistic person to prom, or somebody with Down syndrome, or things like that. And you think, well, actually, I don't care if the head cheerleader decided as an act of charity she was going to take someone to prom. But it's the fact that it's an act of charity, not just that she saw that person, or that person was a human being in their eyes.
Like they wouldn't be worthy of being taken. It had to be an act of charity, when actually... the cheerleader could be not the nicest, best, most wonderful person. And the autistic person or the disabled person might be absolutely freaking stellar. In all fairness,
Like, we're human beings first. We're not, autistic. And nothing else. We are
Nor are we in the binary or the linear concept of low to high functioning.
No,
I can... To play devil's advocate again, I can understand to a very limited extent, how it can be useful in small talk, introductory conversation. My child is. You're giving me an idea of their support needs, but you're not really giving me a full picture of who they are as a person and what their strengths are either.
I mean, it's like turning around to somebody who's neurotypical and going, so I hear you're neurotypical. Are you a high functioning or low functioning neurotypical? And they go, what do you mean? Well, do you live independently? Can you eat and wash and, all of this? And you would never do those things. You would never reduce somebody to high or low functioning label. And, if you look at some of the stats around the high functioning autistic population, the rates of self-harm, suicide are huge, really, really jarring. And that's because people are like disbelieving, not making accommodations for them. And we're still autistic on the inside, just because we don't show it and perform it for you. Doesn't mean that you can negate that.
It is different. My autism is different to your autism. I experience it differently, and I will show different symptoms. By putting it into two kind of binary groups, or you kind of just say, well, you either fit in this group or you fit in this group, and it kind of completely forgets the fact that it's a spectrum disorder.
And people think of it as a line, don't they? So they think it's a line, and there's low functioning and high functioning, severe and mild. And you've got like somebody with really high support needs over here that perhaps is non-verbal, and then this end you've got somebody who's really intellectual, perhaps a bit quirky, some social issues, tech genius, Steve Jobs kind of type, Put
it this way, I am technically, people would class me in the high functioning kind of thing. I'm quite successful in my job and things like that, yet I need a lot of support, and I basically kind of on a regular basis have to go into psychiatric wards because I just completely can't function. It's not as simple as you can cope, and these people can't.
No, I agree, and I'm classed as having a severe and enduring mental illness as well, and I have a lot of what I call de facto care from my partner. He drives me places, he does all the little chores that I find incredibly difficult. He helps me sometimes, even just tell me, okay, you need to do this now, you need to do that now, this is how you need to do it. There are times when I forget to feed myself, or I forget to shower, or I can't do it, and he helps me a massive amount. And I don't have to put that out there. I shouldn't have to put that out there for everybody to think they have a right to judge how autistic I am.
And it's things like, I'm 22 and I still live with my parents. Why would that, if you were neurotypical, people would be like, well, you know, they wouldn't really kind of judge it too much. But whereas because I say I'm autistic and I live with my parents, they go, oh, you need a lot of support then. And I'm like, well, yeah, but at the same time it's like, well, why does it matter to you?
But I think everything gets medicalised. And as a parent of an autistic child, it's no longer play dates, it's managed social interactions. And, you know, it's no longer soft play, it's a sensory environment. And everything gets changed and medicalised and sort of monitored and evaluated constantly. And I think that's the thing, is all of our behaviours then are linked to the fact that we're autistic, and they're sort of measured in that way.
By function. They're measured by how good you can do them. Which makes no sense, you know.
No. And, you know, somebody else might not function very well before they have their coffee, but you wouldn't go, okay, so your regulation level there was lower than at this point in the day. You
need a dose of caffeine.
Let's titrate your caffeine intake and see how that works for you. You know, we don't do that.
No, but everything else gets medicalised if you've got the label of being autistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's the functioning, and it's all measured by functioning, and you're like...
It's never a true representation of a whole person, and in my experience, it's not labelling functioning labels don't really mirror what my life is like at home. So my husband would, by some measures, be classed as low functioning because I do all his care and, you know, facilitate all his routines. However, what kind of functioning am I? Because once I've put all that in place for him and our 2 children, I've got nothing left for myself. Even if my arm is hanging off, I'm not phoning the doctor because I haven't got any communication spoons left.
Yeah.
So what kind of functional label do you put on 2 autistic people who are married, like we are, and are completely codependent? There is no label for that.
No.
Yeah.
And I think it just, that whole situation just explains why functioning labels just don't make sense.
No,
to kind of the modern idea of what autism is.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's important to remember, I think, that everyone is interdependent. You know, it's that saying, isn't it, no man is an island. But in reality, we all have structures around us that we rely on. Even if you go so far as to look at the sort of food chain, none of us, well, not many of us, sort of grow our own food from scratch and create our own power and sewage systems and all of that. We're all interdependent. We're dependent on our family, our friends, our colleagues. You know, nobody just... not nobody. I'm sure there are people.
Basically, the functioning labels is because we like to simplify things in the modern world, and functioning labels are just a way of simplifying something that's too complex for other people to.
But it's at such a great cost.
Yeah, it is a great cost.
It's a great cost because, like, as I go back to my example, I'll do an executive committee meeting and I'll be fine, and like people come up to me going, "That was really brilliant," and you know, I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." The next day I can't speak. But those people in that executive committee meeting won't see that. And people won't recognise that. And I'll go back to that meeting going, after that meeting I couldn't speak. And they're like, oh, but you were fine.
Yeah. They're not understanding. They can't understand how somebody can be 2 things that are so very different at the same time.
The general population absolutely have the privilege to be able to do that. To be, you know, one thing in one situation and one in another. And I think that ties into looking a bit autistic, doesn't it? That's our next myth.
So our next myth.
Our next myth then is going to be: is everyone a little bit autistic?
Can we just start by saying no? Not.
Absolutely not. Now, the really great thing about this is when people say it, it's because they want to relate and connect and understand. And they go, well, I do that, so I kind of understand that part of you, and that's something that I can connect and kind of categorize you with a little bit. You know, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But we were talking about this. You know, it's like saying to somebody that said, oh, I had a bad back, or oh, I was sick this morning, or you're a little bit pregnant.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I can see, like, sometimes it can be well intentioned.
Oh yeah, it comes from
I've got
a
couple of stock phrases that I throw out there, and you can see the cogs working where they start reflecting. So I literally had this week at the nursery pickup. I disclosed that I was autistic, and another grandparent, I think, couldn't tell. It's the age of Botox, we can't tell anything these days. After I disclosed, they said, oh really, oh well, we're all a bit autistic anyway, that's what they say. And I don't know who they are, but they get credited with a lot of stereotypes and stuff.
It's normally Janet, some woman called Janet.
I'm not naming names on the school run.